Let's go to Capitol Hill now, and NBC's Julie Surkin. And live from his big board, NBC News national correspondent Steve Kornacki is standing by. But Julie, you first. You continue to gather reaction from Republican lawmakers there. What sort of mixed messaging are you hearing?
Anna, mixed messaging is exactly the right way to put it, because that's where a majority of Republicans here on Capitol Hill find themselves. They think two things can be true, right? The first, they don't condone the behavior in which the former president conducted himself in. They do find these charges in the indictment to be serious, but they also say that this is hypocritical, that the President Joe Biden also had classified documents. They say much of which that supporter said on the ground, that they don't see how the former president's case is different than who is currently in the White House or that of Hillary Clinton, for example. But take a listen to this real mash of all different kinds of Republicans. You have his supporters, you have those in the middle, and you have those who are absolutely saying that this is unacceptable behavior and the former president got what was coming to him. Watch.
I would not feel comfortable with a convicted felon in the White House. So we'll see how the plays out.
Well, I think it's obvious what the president did was wrong, and we just got to be honest.
If you're going to talk about the actual indictment itself, I think this is ridiculous. I think it's stupid.
They're persecuting Donald Trump.
You don't think he did anything wrong?
Compared to Joe Biden?
Now, we just heard from number 2 in the Senate, John Thune. He's the whip. He's the vote counter here. He just told my colleague Frank Thorpe a couple of moments ago that this is all about 2024. He, of course, did not defend the former president's conduct. He, in fact, endorsed someone else for president already, but he's concerned about the election prospects when it comes not only to re-electing electing somebody in the White House, electing a Republican, hopefully, but also having Republicans flip the Senate here and hold on to the House.
And so, Steve, the indictment is out there for people to read now, and the new polling suggests that Americans do believe what is in this indictment, that the former president illegally removed classified documents from the White House. Break it all down for us.
Yeah, we're starting to get some interesting numbers, and obviously a bit of a politically volatile situation. You had all the activities yesterday. You had Trump speaking last night. You're getting reaction from lawmakers and other folks in politics. So we'll see how it all shakes out in the days and weeks to come. But one initial readout on this, a Reuters Ipsos poll. This one came out just yesterday. Some interesting numbers here. So, yes, as you say, they ask folks in this poll, do you believe that Trump illegally removed classified documents from the White House and stored them at Mar-a-Lago? And there is a clear majority there of all Americans who say that is believable to them, that what's in the indictment is believable to them. Now, there's some big differences here. When you look among Republicans, there are more than a third of Republicans, 35%, say it's believable, though nearly 60% say to them that is not believable. And then among that always crucial block of independent voters, it's nearly 60%, again, who say that that basic premise there in the indictment is believable to them. So then you take it a step further and you ask in this poll, well, should Trump be disqualified from the presidency because of this? Now, what do folks mean by disqualified? Legally disqualified, or just does it make him unqualified in their minds? A little bit unclear what the question reads to certain people. But basically, when you put that statement to people, exactly 50% in this poll say they agree Trump should be disqualified based on that. Again, Republicans overwhelmingly disagree. Independents overwhelmingly agree with that. So you say, okay, well, the political damage here to Trump is clear. It is dire. Well, there are some other numbers in here that are worth considering as well when you try to talk about the politics of this. How about this? The statement, the indictment of Donald Trump is politically motivated. Well, 50% of all voters agree with that as well. And a plurality of independents, 41-31, also agree with that statement. There's a lot of independents who say they don't know. But the idea that this is a politically motivated indictment has a lot of purchase with the electorate. Take it a step further. Read this statement to voters. The elite class is targeting Donald Trump because they don't want him to win in 2024. And again, when you read that statement in this poll, a plurality, 46%, say that they agree with that. Again, overwhelmingly, Republicans agree with that statement. So politically, what does that mean? Interestingly, in this poll, they ask among Republicans, who's your choice for 2024? Donald Trump retains a significant lead in this poll, though this same poll taken a month ago showed a bigger Trump lead. It was 30 points for Trump a month ago. It's 21 now. So has the indictment, has the news around it eroded his support among Republicans a little bit? That's possible. Is this noise? That's possible. It's still a very big Trump lead in this poll, a very big Trump lead in the other polls. But I think you can see from that data there's a couple different ways to read this.
Absolutely. So I want to get some reaction about what we're learning here. Thank you, Steve Kornacki and Julie Surkin. Really appreciate your reporting. Let's bring in MSNBC political analyst David Jolly, a former Florida Republican congressman who is no longer affiliated with that party. So, Congressman, just your reaction to what we heard from Steve and what stands out.
I think the big takeaway, what is consistent in all of those questions and all of those numbers, is the permanency of the MAGA coalition, which is largely, vastly Republicans, but also some independents who have joined the pro-Trump coalition. That comes through in each of those numbers. That Donald Trump's hold on a cultural and political movement remains as strong as ever, despite now 2 indictments.
A Trump spokesman put kind of a positive spin on the events yesterday, saying, quote, "What did the other candidates do today? Do we know? We know where Trump was." And he went on to say there was no oxygen for the other candidates. I guess that's the old all publicity is good publicity philosophy. What do you think about that?
If your candidate's a showman, right? If Donald Trump, somebody that can turn an indictment into a positive, if you will. But I think it goes to this permanency. Nobody has yet cracked Donald Trump's hold on the party. And what we know is he is fighting 2 battles. He's fighting the legal battle and he's fighting the battle for public opinion in the White House. And ultimately, Anna, I believe that Donald Trump is putting all his chips on the table, knowing he has to win the presidency. And so perhaps his lawyers will give him certain counsel, but the counsel he is seeking is his own. How do I get to the White House in November of 24 so I can take care of all this?
I wonder if the candidates we were just showing who are rivals to Trump are listening to outside advisors, because we have reporting that a number of other GOP campaigns are telling us that this is one rival's aide saying, quote, "Every campaign right now that is not Donald Trump is receiving pressure from donors to go harder against Donald Trump." The campaigns are apparently hearing that. But is anyone taking the advice?
Yeah, this is interesting because there are 2 distinct Republican groups right now in this question about Trump support. There is everybody that's not running for president, and then there are the presidential candidates. Because if you're a House or Senate Republican, you might as well kind of softly stick with Donald Trump. But if you're a presidential candidate, you have your own interest in mind to try to reach the White House, and then your donors want to see you topple the frontrunner in Donald Trump. I don't think it can happen kind of piecemeal, Anna. I think that the moment that I'm looking for, which I do not think will happen, is in August if every Republican candidate stands on that stage and says what Donald Trump did is wrong and he needs to focus on his legal affairs. I don't see that happening, but it's that theory of it happens slowly and then all at once. We haven't seen that moment yet, but that might be what it takes.